hiring people, when you reach max capacity, you should have hired somebody already. Like you're past the point, because now not only do you have to hire and train them, but you have to do all that while you're still at max capacity.
Hi, my name's Steven.
Hi, I'm April.
This is the 3 Pi Squared ABA Business Leaders podcast, where we discuss topics on how to create and grow an ethical and sustainable ABA practice.
Together, Steven and I owned a 7-figure ABA practice that provided both clinic and in-home services.
3 Pi Squared has helped over 900 ABA practices start up and expand with our comprehensive products and services geared specifically to ABA. Now, let's get to the podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to ABA Business Leaders Podcast, brought to you by 3 Pi Squared. I'm April.
I'm Steven.
And welcome to part 2 of nightmares and hardships. All right. I already admitted that I am experiencing podcast burnout. So I'm just getting a little weird. So, I've always been weird.
Yeah,
anyways, so we're here to continue the conversation. So I will give it over to Chris and Meghan here to just reintroduce themselves really quickly in case you did not listen to part 1. But I will say that if you haven't listened to part 1, definitely tune in. We talked about a lot of the burnout and just difficult times that you have being a business owner.
Yeah, I think it would be worthwhile listening just to know you're not alone, because we get that often. I think this is normal stuff that happens in business, and I think what this podcast will hopefully do is give you some actions that you can take from listening to part 1.
Thank you. That was very well said. I appreciate you hopping in and helping me out there. I was drowning in bed.
No worries.
And that's what we're going to be talking about, or like the plans and the benchmarks and how do you get support and all of those pieces. So, Chris, why don't you introduce yourself, and then Meghan, you can follow.
I'm Chris Robinson, BCBA business owner of ABA, where we put the fun in ABA, doing comprehensive in-home ABA services.
And I am Meghan Robertson, not related. And I am the owner of Anchor ABA in the Hampton Roads area.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. So we've been talking about, I think kind of where we left off of part 1 is, perhaps having a plan may help, right? Because when you hit that point of, oh no, well, what if my payer stops paying, or we have denials, or I don't know, all the things that could happen. Having a plan and knowing what you could do can be helpful.
I just think a lot of BCBAs, when they're starting a business, right? Like I know, like for us, not paid, what are you even talking about? How is that even a thing? You know what I mean? And so I think I think a lot of people come into this assuming that this is not even a thing that happens. And so just knowing that this potentially happens, another issue, and then we can kind of go into solutions. But the start of the year, you're going to have a lot of deductibles, and so the funder is not going to be paying you maybe in January, February, part of March. And so this is where you're going to have to rely on those patient portions and so knowing that is going to happen and setting up reminders, making sure that everything is set up there is really important, right? So I think just knowing that this is a possibility allows you to make a knowledge-based decision, right? And have some vision that what do I do in case?
Januaries are the worst time of year because Christmas staff aren't billing as much as they normally are.
Right.
And then January 1st, most deductibles reset. If someone has, just for example, like a $6,000 deductible, if you're working with commercial insurance, which we exclusively take, someone has a $6,000 deductible and we provide $6,000 worth of services, bill that out to the insurance, a couple of weeks, that comes back $0 payment, 100% patient responsibility. We send a bill to the parent. The parent says, I don't have $6,000. So we put them on a payment plan, and we ask to break that up over 12 months and pay $500 a month. And instead of getting $6,000 by the end of January, you get $500 by the end of February, and then $500 a month after that. So in the last podcast, I was talking about how we had this huge amount of expenses in January, and we also had reduced payments at the same time. And it was an absolute terrifying nightmare. Nothing like 4 months of not getting paid. But it was not pretty.
It's never pretty when you're not getting paid, even if it's 1 month. I think too, we talked a little bit in the last podcast about two main areas where hiring people to help and hiring the right people to do the jobs that because we can't do it all on our own. Maybe we can when it's just us and a couple of people right at the beginning, if that's how you start, but that's not sustainable for growth. And we talked about another theme is that financial part of it. But I also think, and maybe this is just kind of an umbrella theme that encompasses both, but there's so many BCBAs that want to start a business, and I see them. I'm on Facebook groups, and they're so helpful because it's a great source of crowdsourcing your information, where you can ask a question. Is anybody else experiencing this? That's wonderful. However, I see so many BCBAs who are so well-intentioned and who have the most wonderful passion and love for the families that they want to serve, but they post and they say, hey, I'm opening a clinic next month. Does anybody have any policies and procedures that I can use? Or do you have anything that you can send me? And so I think to an extent, it kind of goes back to what we had talked about in the first podcast too, that we can have the best intentions and be the most amazing BCBAs in our field and not really know how to run the business. And I'll say I'm going to plug 3 Pi Squared because I always point back to you all. I purchased, I think, all of your manuals that were available at the time back in 2017 when we first started. And I spent months going through every single word. And it not only was I able to manipulate things and change things to modify them for what we were going to be doing, because we do all in-home therapy. Mm-hmm. It's all BCBA direct, and we offer telehealth parent support. Our company doesn't look like everybody else's, but it just opened my eyes to all the different situations and things that I knew that I needed to then learn more about and be prepared for. Because there will be problems. There will be issues with payments. There will be issues with, even with families not paying or, HR issues. There could be issues with parents. There could be conflict with parents. And we haven't even talked about kind of the interpersonal stress of being the business owner. We've really only hit on the financial and the workload type of stress. And so I feel like many of us, probably myself included, decided, okay, this is going to be my goal. I'm going to have my own business. We're going to do this thing. And then we get to that point where we're ready and we learn, oh, there's a lot more that I need to know. There's a lot I need to, maybe instead of opening next month, I need to delay this another 2 months or 6 months or 1 year or 2 years even. And just having that awareness and maturity to realize, hey, that's okay. Let's learn as much as we can about it first. Prepare sufficiently so that when we do open those doors, when we do get that clinic, or when in my situation where we're 100% in home, we already have a vast knowledge base to where at least we can be prepared as much as possible to move forward each of those issues as they come up.
Yeah, I appreciate the shout out. And I mean, that's like our handbooks now are almost 100% crowdsourced. So it's insane to be able to say this, but we have over 1,000 people, 1,000 companies using those handbooks, and they'll give us feedback. And so then we distribute those updates to everybody. And so it's been amazing that we can offer that. I think very similar to what you said. That's when I'm describing these handbooks, it's not a finished product. It's a way that you can get some knowledge so you can ask some questions, right? So wait a second, I need to worry about this thing, right? Like that I didn't even know that this was a thing. And so what do I do in that situation? I think it's really important, that you have that at least some a little bit of knowledge so that you can then say, okay, I need to learn more about that. We hear it so often, I don't know what I don't know. And so this is a way that you can start to, again, get that visibility, that understanding that these things do happen. And then you can put something in place to mitigate it.
And ultimately, I think we all want those BCBAs or other professionals who have the kids and the families or the adults, whatever capacity you're working in this field, when they have those individuals as their number one focus, we want those companies to succeed. Absolutely. But sometimes, like we said before, if your only focus is that and you're not paying any attention to the financial side of things, you can get into a situation where now your company went under. You had the best intentions and your heart was in the right place and your passions were in the right place and you were doing really good work and these kids were making progress. But because you didn't have that other area of knowledge and experience, the company's not successful. And then the next guy comes through and maybe has that financial knowledge and experience. That's their only bottom line. And they're hugely successful, but the kids are not making as much progress. However, it balances out. Not to say that every giant company or medium-sized small company even that's making, a lot of money and making good financial decisions is doing bad therapy. Of course not. But we want to see all of those BCBAs who are passionate about this work. We want them to succeed. We want them to have successful businesses. There are plenty of children. We have a wait list that is 2 years long for after school times, and we've never advertised a day in my life. I buy business cards and I hand them out to my therapist, and I don't even know if they give them to anybody, but the need is there, and families are looking for quality services by people who care.
Yep.
And
100%.
We want those to be more prolific, and we want them to succeed.
Something we get asked all the time is, I want to build an ABA company without investors. How do I do that?
One place we're telling people to check out is Live Oak Bank.
They really understand the unique needs of ABA businesses and specialize in custom financial solutions that support your practice.
They're America's premier SBA lender and have guided thousands of small businesses through the SBA loan process.
Whether you're looking for business acquisition financing, construction, commercial real estate, working capital, or refinancing,
Live Oak has tailored solutions just for you. Their behavioral health lending team offers financing options nationwide.
So if you're ready to grow your ABA business without giving away your equity, visit liveoak.bank/PIE, P-I-E, to connect with their team. From both of you, what would you do on the financial side, looking back, again, hindsight is 2020, from where you started to where you are now? What are the things that are like an absolute must on that financial side so that you can go to sleep at night, right? That you're not always in a panic and burnt out, because it is so important, and it shouldn't, but it is, right? So what are the things that you have in place that can help alleviate some of that financial stress?
Or mistakes that you made.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's what we share a lot. That's how we know what we know, is because of the mistakes we made. So if you have a don't do this, advice, that's welcome too.
I can start. So we talked about this a little bit in the podcast from last week. One of the biggest things is to have an available line of credit through whatever means you can get one. Talk with your financial advisor, talk with your banker, have a good relationship with those individuals so that you know what your options are, because you never know when the sky is going to fall out. and all the things can happen at any given moment when you least expect it, or right after Christmas. And then have money in savings, just liquid cash that you can pull as you need it without having to deal with any interest payments or any other paperwork or documentation or loan applications, where you can just pull it out as you need it, because it just creates so much less stress as you're going through and having a slow month in income, or for whatever reason, the reimbursements didn't come through. And then for me and the way that I work our budget, we mentioned this a little bit. So I look at physically, and I entered all of this in, which maybe one day, we talked about hiring people to do these things. Maybe one day I'll hire someone to do this, but right now it's still my responsibility. I look at how many hours each of our BCBAs worked. They are paid hourly, so it fluctuates. I look at how many, travel time hours, non-billable hours, all of that, what our reimbursements were for each BCBA based on who they were with and what insurance reimbursement rate. It breaks down all of those things. I look at how much we're not going to get paid for because maybe the authorization expired, and if we just continued on because that's what's best for the child while we were working through those things with the insurance company, then hey, we're not going to get paid for those sessions. We got to write them off. So I look at all of those things in order to break it down to where we know exactly what the company is bringing in every month as far as potential contracted income, not necessarily what came into the bank account, but how much work we did that was billable, and then what we paid out in expenses and things like that. So we can really get down to brass tacks and know, okay, for every single BCBA that we have who works one billable hour, this is our net profit per hour. And it breaks it down per month. It breaks it down per person. So we can really see if there are months where that number goes down significantly, or maybe our billables go down significantly, I can go back and look and say, okay, what was going on? Was it Christmas time and there were a lot of cancellations? Okay, that is totally fine. We want our families to take time off. We want our therapists to take time off. Was it something related to insurance? Is there something that I need to know about that maybe my billing team hasn't updated me on, and it happened? We do meet every 2 weeks, but maybe there's something going on that I just, slipped through the cracks. So it really gives me a beautiful, I'm not a numbers person, but it is beautiful when you can see it all written out, a really nice, clear-cut path to see what's happening in the business from a financial side. And then if numbers start to go down, that's a red flag that, okay, we need to be looking at what's happening, what's going on. Where are these numbers changing? Is it in hours? Is it in reimbursements? Is it in the unpaid sessions? And really isolate those variables so that we can make changes.
I have a line of credit horror-ish story. So we've had a line of credit for a while that we opened when the business was still pretty young. And at the time it wasn't a lot, but we were satisfied with that because our payrolls were so much smaller. And I see it as like this line of credit's this covers 3 payrolls. That's since we're in homes, payroll is our biggest expense. So it's basically like we're doing bi-weekly payrolls. This line of credit gives us 6 weeks of insurance. Now our payrolls are 2 or 3 times what they used to be, and our line of credit covers 1 payroll. And now that's 2 weeks of insurance, which is not a lot of insurance. So I went back to the bank recently and I'm like, hey, business has grown, but our line of credit has not grown. And they're like, oh, sure, we can help you with that. Just send us over some documents. So I sent over some documents. And they're like, well, what assets do you have? And we're in home. Like, the business doesn't really have any assets. And they looked at it as, they wanted to see how much outstanding we had, because they thought that that was the collateral. So if we went out of business, they would just collect anything that trickles in after that. And so I sent them all these documents, and they asked me for an AR report, and I sent them what I could like quickly send them. And our practice management does not have like a solid AR report. It only shows what's been actually billed, and we're lagging a week behind bill. And we're almost, 6 digits in what we're billing weekly. So that's a significant amount of difference in the total amount of like that they're looking at. So I sent it to them, and I'm like, by the way, this is going to be really short because this does not reflect the last week. They did not increase our line of credit, because they said that I did not use the old line of credit enough, which I thought I'd taken out sometimes and then paid it back responsibly, which is, I'm not a business person. That's what I thought you were supposed to do. Apparently, you're just supposed to buy your staff jet skis. Yeah. And that's looked upon more favorably. They asked if I could slow down our billing so that we could have more outstanding, and that would be looked on more favorably. I'm like, so you're punishing me because we have an efficient billing department? It's just, that's the kind of thing as an owner that's just absolutely maddening.
It also happens when there's something going on in your personal life, or we had 4 months we talked about before where we weren't getting paid by an insurer. And at the same time, one of our new BCBAs, we were having issues with another insurance company getting her credentialed and added to our roster. She was already credentialed. We just needed to, flip her from one company to the other. That's been ongoing for 4 months now. So just so all of our listeners know, guaranteed all the things are going to fall apart at the same time. It's just what happens. And when you feel like, oh, wow, everything is going really well, just keep putting money into the bank, because before you know it, something else will come up and you'll want to know, okay, it's there. Everything's all right. We're good. We're going to get through it. We can afford to keep paying out payroll, even if, all of the things are falling apart around me, because it all happens at the same time, always.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, payroll is probably payroll expense is probably 90% of what an ABA company is paying out and expenses. So it's just it's a really easy calculation to make, right? Like, how much risk do you want? How comfortable do you want to be able to sleep at night? And, I highly recommend at least 3 months. Try to get closer to 6 months of payroll in your account if you can. The other thing that I would highly recommend is a Duns and Bradstreet number. If you don't have one, super easy to get. It's free, and that will help you to get lines of credit with your company without using your name.
Can you explain what that is?
I mean, it just go to Duns and Bradstreet. You just fill out the form. It helps you get credit for your company without, because normally, even the company credit cards, at least for us, you sign that, if our company goes under, you can come after me personally and I'll pay this bill, right? So if you can, it's similar to a lease on a building. Most of the time the landlord's going to say, yeah, I don't care about your company. I want you to be on the hook for this. Try to avoid that if you can. This is the same way. If you can get lines of credit in your company's name and not in yours, if something does happen, they're not coming after your house. You know what I mean? So yeah, getting a Duns and Bradstreet number, it's free, it's quick to get. I would highly recommend that. And then, a great profit and loss statement is very helpful. Line of credit, having a financial advisor that you can reach out to, talk to, that understands the insurance landscape and how it works, I think could be very helpful.
Well, earlier when we were in between the two podcasts, you mentioned benchmarks. Yeah. That would be, so can you tell us a little bit more about that and what that might look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Meghan, you said this at one point, but taking your time is not a bad thing. Rushing into this is probably if you can even take a month and just ask yourself some questions, I highly recommend it. And
those answers are going to tell you I need to wait like another year.
It may be, right? But like, just let's assume that you're going to be working 80 hours a week and you're going to be doing some of the things that we have talked about here. How many of those things sound fun to you, right? And maybe panicking over insurance is like your jam and you just love talking to Aetna. Most people don't. I know I don't. I can remember being on the phone for 6 hours on hold waiting to talk to Aetna. Or I would be on a call and I have 15 denials and they'll only talk to me about 8 at a time. And so now I got to call back to get the other 7. No, don't. Like, no one wants to do this. Most people don't. So like, what are the things that if you're in it right now, what are the things that you do not like to do? What are the things that you absolutely hate doing? And then when talking to a mentor or a financial advisor, okay, I make this much money. When can I hire someone, right? What's my benchmark so that I can remove this from my life forever, right? And so billing may be one of the first things that a lot of BCBAs do, because there are some really good billers out there. We are now one of them. Yay. And so that's something that I highly recommend. Knowing how to bill is so important, that you have some understanding of how to bill, but then giving it away, and again, admin things, Chris, you mentioned it, like all these little things, all these little fires that just distract you from looking at high level strategic growth. If you can alleviate these from your life for the most part, right? There's always going to be those things. But if you can store away 6 months of cash so that you're safe, right? You can, you have those benchmarks in place to know now we're making this much revenue a month. This is our profit. I know that I can hire that admin person, or I can make one of our RBTs a hybrid position so that they can take on the schedules, or they can do the intakes, or they can manage some HR things, right? Like, these are the things that you have to start thinking about strategically, because if you don't, you're going to wind up like the people that we talk to all the time. I hear it too often, but I started a company because I wanted to do a better job than the place I left. And now the only difference between me and them is it's my name on the door. And that's a horrible place to find yourself in. And I don't mean to say this to scare you. Maybe I do. But it's like, just do some planning around what you want this to look like before you just do what we did. And I think I could do this, right? This is easy enough. There's enough people around. We'll figure it out on the way. That's not a good idea, right? Yeah.
I feel like to an extent you have to have a lot of "we'll figure it out"
Sure.
in your body, because there are a lot of problems that come up in this business where, especially if you start out taking certain insurances and you've got to work through it on your own initially so that you can understand how billing works. If something comes back denied for this, that, and the other, you know exactly what needs to be done. You know exactly how to fix it. Mm-hmm. And it can be a quick and seamless process that then you don't have to make the phone calls. But I think there is some of that where you don't want to start from scratch and open your doors and say, okay, I'm going to figure it out. I have my first client tomorrow. We're just going to wing it. But when problems arise and things like that, I think that there is some of that is really, really helpful, that, okay, I can figure this out. I can call people. I can reach out to the people. I can, look up resources, things like that. Not necessarily that you have to know all the information or do everything on your own, but that figure it out trait can be helpful too.
Totally. Yeah.
I've never regretted hiring anyone, even if we didn't have a fit for them at the time. But sometimes you understand if they're, we're looking to hire someone in this area and someone applies, and they're not in that area. They're in an area that you already got fully staffed, but they're such an amazing fit. It's like, yeah, just go ahead and hire them, because payroll is your biggest expense, but it's also what we get reimbursed for. And if you end up with less people, then that's going to start costing you more. So sometimes we hire people knowing that we're going to lose money on them for like 6 months until we can build them a caseload, or whatever it is that they need. But like sometimes you don't want to like cut off what's going to eventually make you money either. It just means that like, okay, we're just going to reinvest this right now.
Yeah, I think that's it. Just at least knowing what is involved in that, I think is the part where my recommendation is, knowing, hey, we hire this BCBA, most of our funders are going to require that they could get credentialed. That's going to take 3 or 4 months, right? And so what are we doing during that situation? Just having the visibility and the understanding that we're going to have some pain here, and then knowing that we're going to be able to get through it. Does that make sense?
One of the failures in burnout that I experienced, it was just last year, mind you. I was at my son's baseball game and I was constantly thinking about work and was not paying attention at all. And I had a friend sitting next to me asking me about the weekend and all this stuff. And I kept opening my phone and sending myself emails. She's like, what are you, Meghan, what are you doing? I said, I don't want to forget this. So I'm going to send myself an email so I can read it later today. Cause Lord knows I'm not going to wait till Monday to get stuff done. I was also working 70, 80 plus hours a week and was so heavily involved in every aspect of what my company was doing day to day. We did have a biller at the time, and they were also managing authorizations. Maybe at the time I was also doing authorizations, but that was already passed along. But I was doing everything else. And I like to be involved in our clients and in their families' lives and in our team and things like that. So I was still very involved in the things that they were doing. And I wanted to review evaluations and kind of get a second set of eyes on the goals and all that. And it wasn't sustainable. And she mentioned to me hiring someone. And this is something I've heard so many times. Well, I can't hire someone because I don't have time to train them. I don't have time to teach them how our company does it and write out all these policies and procedures that I just do every day without really thinking about it. It's just easier for me to do it myself. And it was in that moment that I realized, okay, I can, this is not sustainable. We cannot grow. We surely can't ever hope to add another BCBA because I don't have enough hours. And I told you all in the last podcast, I love books. I don't really have time to read them, so I listen to the Audible version. But right now I'm going through a book called Who, Not How. And it was recommended to me by another business owner in our area. And this book talks about when you're looking for the how, you're trying to find time to do it with your capabilities and your experience and your knowledge. And then you have to do it on your own. And it's then limited to how many things you can get done because that's your focus. Whereas if you look for a who that can do the job, one, you can find someone who has those experiences and capabilities and knowledge and the desire to do those things that I might not love doing so much. I told you I don't love the numbers. Right now I'm still doing them, but eventually I might hire somebody who does that for us. I didn't love the monotony of reviewing the evaluations. I loved looking at the goals. I loved being a part of that process and kind of troubleshooting back and forth. Hey, what if we worked on it this way? What do you think about that? Our team is really good about collaborating in that way, but going through the checklist to make sure that we did everything that we were supposed to do in order for TRICARE to approve it and all those things, not my favorite. And so kind of going through this book and through this process, and it sounds like, Chris, you did this years ago. And so I'm also learning from you and other business owners, hiring people. When you reach max capacity, you should have hired somebody already. Like you're past the point because now not only do you have to hire and train them, but you have to do all that while you're still at max capacity. Mm-hmm. And so I think that that's such a big component of this, being financially aware of what's going on in your business and being prepared adequately for the financial ups and downs, but also being able to hire people and put your faith in people who can get the job done so that you're not constantly working at max capacity. Because we talked about it before. We feel like we need to do everything. I had a meeting last week or 2 weeks ago with one of our BCBAs, and we were talking about doing more mentorship sessions where one BCBA goes into another session and just tag teams and gives ideas and suggestions and learns from one another. And my brain immediately went to, okay, I need to schedule those. And she said, no, I can do that. Yeah. You don't have to do it all. And I think, especially when you start from the ground up, we get so accustomed to doing it all and feeling like we have to do it all, that then that becomes ingrained in us, when really we have to get to the point where, okay, if we're working 70 hours a week, we need to let somebody else do a portion of that, and then hire somebody else to do another portion of that, so that we can continue to feel somewhat sane in the role of being a business owner in general.
Yeah, what you said of, if you're at capacity and you're in the moment where you're like, I can't hire someone to help me because I don't have time for that. Yeah, I've heard that just in the last month. Half a dozen times, maybe more. Yeah. And in one-on-one conversations, I've had 5 of them. Yeah. So it's something I feel very passionate about. And at the same time, I'm trying to take a step back myself and realize, okay, what are the pieces that we can look at here, and how can I and 3x² support business owners who are in this? Because I want to rush in, because, that's where I was in my company. I want to rush and be like, okay, I can help you. Let's do this. And I am for some people, but also, how do I help? What's the skill that the business owner needs? That self-awareness, or that maybe it's a check-in system with yourself for these benchmarks, to check in with your values and what you want to see and what you don't want to see within yourself. Maybe it's something that shows up in other areas of your life, and that's your trigger to say, oh, I need to look at this thing. But maybe for those of you who are listening, who are still in those first couple of years of growth and building the processes and figuring things out, maybe, recording yourself, you could be like 10 years into business and think, okay, I really need to start delegating more, but I don't have time. The first thing that you can do is you can just start recording yourself, walking through, like, talking out loud procedures that you're doing. That's something you already have to do. And so, pulling up a Teams meeting or a Google Meets or a whatever, Zoom, and I think somebody told me that there was who was it? So anyways, there's like cool apps that do this. So, there's so much now, and just start walking through your processes and just getting them down, recorded. And you don't have to do anything but narrate them out loud, maybe even screen share if it's something on a screen. But it doesn't have to be perfect to be able to pass it off to someone else either, because I really feel like there's a lot of that wrapped into it too. Is, okay, well, I can pass this off once I get it at a place where I want it to be, and then I can pass it off. So just a little urge to maybe look at, okay, yes, I want it to be at this point, but maybe to get to the point where I really want it to be, I need someone to help me get there, and that's okay.
Yeah, and I just want to, one thing, just to be aware and understand that it's hard to give someone something, right? We are on our 5th, I think, podcast producer right now, and so, like, I get that you can put your faith and trust into someone that they're going to do it the way that you want and train them. Everything is going well, and then 3 weeks later they go somewhere else, right? Like, no one is going to care about this business as much as you, and I totally understand that and appreciate that. And if you've been burned 5 times, then you're like, yeah, okay, I'm just going to do it myself. So I can also appreciate and understand why someone may be a little hesitant in giving up something when they're in that situation too. And
that's perfectly normal and okay too. Yep. And then sometimes the answer may be just to step back and decide, okay, well, do I want to continue to grow this company, or do I want to downsize to where I can
do the things,
and have more capacity. There's more than one answer.
Yeah, there is more.
There's more than one answer.
Yes, absolutely.
But ultimately, you're not alone, as you can see here by Chris and Meghan's story. And I know that we've had other stories similar on the podcast. And, as we wrap up today, Chris and Meghan, do you guys have anything that you want to tell the listeners out there that we didn't cover, or any words of wisdom or advice or support for everyone today?
I really appreciate the resources that you all have through 3Pi Squared and your Facebook pages and your posts and just these podcasts too. I feel like I've only been doing this since 2017. And so to me, I felt like I needed to find my own way to an extent. I reached out to other business owners, and those relationships were so helpful because there's so many people who are willing to help, willing to collaborate and share information with you. And it does not have to be competitive. There's so many kids and families and different avenues of working in this industry, in this business, in this field, that we can do so without feeling so competitive with one another, but instead just really support one another. So reaching out to other business owners, seeking out resources like this. I think the more we can learn about ABA as a business, the better off we'll all be, because now we're creating successful companies that can withstand hardships and withstand payments lagging and whatever else might be going on. And it just makes our field so much stronger and happier. If our people are happier, we're good. Our clients are happy. Everything is going to work better if things are running smoothly, even when behind the scenes they might not be.
Yeah. Also, don't be afraid to ask for help. Like Meghan's example, where her first instinct was to do it, and someone else volunteered to do it. Like, don't be afraid to ask for help from the people that are working with you. If you've hired the right people, they are invested in the client outcomes, and they can help you out. And I also got help from Stephen and April. I was at a point where I was extremely burned out, and I came across a values-based leadership that April was doing, and that was so incredibly helpful for me at the time, and helped us help the whole company refocus on what our values are. So don't be afraid to ask for help. You don't have to do it alone.
Thank you for that, Chris. That means a lot. All right, guys, we're here at the end of this conversation. I feel like we could all talk about it longer.
Yeah.
But I think let's for sure leave it here, and we'll continue this conversation. And as I like to challenge those of you listening, reach out to another business owner, preferably in your state, because no one knows it like those in your state.
Mm-hmm.
Reach out, ask them if they, want to get a cup of coffee, or, grab a bite to eat and chit chat, and just, invite them. Say, hey, I know it's lonely being a business owner. Would you like some company? And start something in your community, even if it's just a couple of you that get together. I think that could be very helpful. All right. Well, you have any last words, Stephen?
If you are listening and you're struggling, I think both Meghan and Chris said it, like, reach out to someone, right? Mm-hmm. Like there's a lot of business owners feeling lonely and stressed. And there is power in numbers. And I think that, like you said, April, reach out to somebody in your community, and maybe you can help each other. Right. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think that's a great idea.
All right. Thank you for those of you listening and watching for spending part of your busy schedule hanging out with us. And if you don't mind, going on and rating and reviewing the podcast, it just helps. Yeah, sharing it just helps to get
something from me too.
Oh my goodness, Stephen!
If you
I was just gonna say it helps the algorithms to get more people to see the podcast. The more that you do all the things, but you had to go make it weird.
Yeah.
Hey, those of us that have benefited from 3Pi Square continue to plug you guys all the time, because it's amazing.
Well, we for sure appreciate that. Well, on that note, we will see you next time.
See ya. Thank you for listening to our podcast. Hopefully it was helpful. If you would like to gain access to this entire video and actually our entire library of videos, please join our ABA Business Leaders membership. You can find that at www.3pisquare.com.